Hello, I'm Lisa de Nikolits, and I'd like to read to you from my latest novel, A Glittering Chaos. Viewer discretion is advised. The next day, Melusine wakes and dresses for work. She walks through the living room and sees that Hans is still in his chair fast asleep. He's been there all night. She shakes him. He stinks of cheap wine and rancid sweat. Hans, wake up! My God, look at you, smell you. Go and take a hot shower and use a lot of mouthwash. You stink of booze. You really need to get a grip, Hans. He opens one eye and wishes she'd shut up. He eases himself upright. His head is pounding, but he feels better. He's delighted to notice that he did not dream about murdering Kateri. He gets up clumsily and heads towards the bathroom. What a great job Healing Lives Ministries is doing, Melusine shouts after him. Tell them thanks from me. Good God, Hans. I'm leaving. Good luck with your day. He closes the bathroom door and stands in the shower. He feels numb, removed from reality. He dries himself and shaves, nicking himself in a few places that won't stop bleeding. He sticks bits of tissue paper onto the cuts and goes into the bedroom to get dressed. But even being in there for such a short time is bad for him. He sees Kateri with her eyes bulging as he squeezes the life out of her, and he tastes her tongue as she forces it into his mouth with a deathly kiss. He retches, grabs his clothes, and runs out to the living room to get dressed. His hands are shaking as he fixes his tie, and he can't stop seeing Kateri and her eyes turning bloodshot as her veins burst from the pressure. He scurries into the kitchen and opens the last bottle of wine, and he downs 2 full mugs, and he feels slightly better. He locks the house and gets into his car. On the way to the office, he stops at a convenience store and buys a variety of breath mints. He rushes past the receptionist, who's asking him how his head feels and if his headache has cleared. "I'm fine," he shouts over his shoulder, closing his office door behind him. He sits behind his desk with his head in his hands, and he wishes he was sitting on the bench in the sunshine with his wine. There's a knock at the door, and the receptionist shows a young girl in. "This is Hilda," she says, her hand on the girl's back, "from the school. She's here for her eye exam." "Are you okay, Hans? Do you want me to get one of the others to do it?" "I told you I'm fine," he said sharply. "Come on in, Hilda. Take a seat in the big black chair. Don't be nervous." Hilda does as he says. She's a gangly girl in her early teens with a high forehead and a sharp pointed chin, and she's looking at him with alarm for no reason he can pinpoint. "I'll be outside if you need me," the receptionist says to Hilda, and she leaves, closing the door behind her. "Don't be nervous," Hans says. "This won't hurt. Have you had an eye exam before?" "No," Hilda says in a small voice. I never needed one till now." "Well, don't worry. I'm just going to ask you which letters look better to you, and you have to answer as quickly as you can. Don't think too much. Just answer. All right?" Hilda nods and clasps her hands tightly together, and Hans begins the test. He stands close to her, adjusting the various lenses, and unable to help himself, he glances down at her feet. She's wearing black school shoes with the laces neatly tied. He moves the equipment to one side. "Hilda," he says conversationally, "if you like, you can take your shoes off. Lots of people find it very helpful. They can concentrate better. Would you like to try that?" "No," Hilda says in her small voice. "Oh, come on," Hans says. "It's very important that you're nice and relaxed so that your brain can send you a clear message about which letters are the brightest and the sharpest. Take your shoes off." The last sentence comes out as a command, and Hilda unties her laces and slips off her shoes, and Hans repositions the equipment in front of her. "How old are you?" he asks. "I'm 13, nearly 14. "Good. Okay, now let's try again." He clicks a few lenses into place and asks her which letters are the sharpest. He has an erection, and he's sweating, and he recalls that he forgot to put on any antiperspirant, and he knows that last night's alcohol is seeping through his pores. "I tell you what, Hilda," he says, and his voice is hoarse, "I'm going to touch each foot, one at a time, and then you must tell me if this makes you see better or worse. Can you do that?" "Yes," she says meekly. "Very good. All right, so now with me touching your right foot, do you see the letters better or worse?" The same. Well, they can't be the same. Let's try again. He does this for a while, and then he tries her left foot. Hilda shakes her head. There's no difference. Hans pretends to think for a moment. Aha! I know why. It's because you still have your socks on. Take them off. We'll try again. Hilda obligingly pulls off her socks. Hans rubs her right foot. It is slightly sweaty and it is soft and tiny in his hand. Her foot is perfect. She is perfect. The sparrow-like bones, the softly rounded heel, the silky smooth virgin purity of her skin. I can still see the same, Hilda offers. I'm going to try the left one, Hans says, and he caresses the left foot. No, it's still the same, Hilda says, and she sounds a little impatient. And then Hans does something unspeakable. He darts down, puts her foot in his mouth, and quickly snakes his tongue in between her toes, and he sucks hard. Hilda sits bolt upright and screams. Her long, piercing cry has the receptionist bursting into the room within seconds. What on earth's going on? She asks, out of breath. He licked my toes, Hilda shouts hysterically. Still unable to move, she's wedged in by the heavy equipment. He put my foot in his mouth and he used his tongue. She starts to wail in earnest, her face crumpled. The receptionist rushes towards the girl and Hans steps aside and sits down heavily in his chair. His mind is an absolute blank. He told me it would help me see the test better, the girl sobbed. First I just had to take my shoes off, and then my socks, and then he rubbed me, and then he put my foot in his mouth, and then he used his tongue. She wails the last word and sobs even more hysterically. The receptionist moves the equipment to the side and puts her arm around the girl. Come on, come with me. She glances at Hans as she leads the girl away, but he is bent forward, studying his hands. He is considering his options. It's safe to say that his career is over, and the same, no doubt, can be said for his marriage. And, since he's out of funds, Judita is also out of the picture. But what would she say to him now, if he were talking to her? He thinks that apart from instructing him to stop drinking and dreaming murderous thoughts, she would tell him to find joy in his day. Hans gets up and collects his car keys. He walks past his colleagues who are all huddled around the hysterical girl. You'll pay for this, one of his former best friends shouts. She's the same age as my daughter, you sick pervert. But Hans hardly hears him. He gets into his car and starts the engine, and then he backs up, makes a perfect turn, and heads out to find his joy. So that was a reading about Hans, rather disturbed Hans, from A Glittering Chaos, which you can purchase from Amazon.ca, or if you're in Canada, from a bookstore. And I hope you enjoyed the reading. Thank you very much. .ca, or if you're in Canada, from a bookstore. And I hope you enjoyed the reading. Thank you very much. Hui.
Well done. Good one.